have Jeff Shewfelt, who is the co-chief executive officer at Gulf and Fraser Credit Union. Jeff, welcome. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So, co-chief executive officer, tell me about that. It sounds like it might be ripe with challenge, but from what I've heard, it works really, really well for you folks.
It's certainly a little bit unique. My partner, Bill Kish, and I have been co-CEOs for 11 and a half years, and it came out of the credit union looking for a new CEO, and both of us were on the executive and looked at each other and said, "Are you running for the position?" I don't know. Are you running for the position? And often when that happens, you end up having someone leave, and that wasn't something we wanted because we had worked together for over 20 years before that.
Oh,
wow. We knew each other quite well, and we came from kind of different areas. Like he's a CPA, numbers, systems, one of the best treasury guys I know, and my life has been more sales and service, marketing, people. So we think we had complementary skills, and our board actually said yes, which was pretty unique because the regulator of the day didn't like it, and they had to answer a lot of questions, but it's worked well for us.
So on the sort of daily basis, how do you, so I noticed, we've got one of you here, which is probably fine, but maybe I'm putting words in your mouth. How do you kind of operate from a daily basis when decisions are being made? Do you both need to go to meetings? Do you divide, conquer? How do you approach that?
So it's a little bit of everything. We certainly learned the first 6 months as our executive team were looking for maybe answers or asking questions. It was a bit of the mom and dad syndrome, they tried to figure out who would say yes. So we had to learn from that for a while. But the way that we do it, we effectively operate the co-CEO office, and all the executives report to us jointly. With the board, Bill and I are treated exactly the same so that we don't have different priorities and initiatives, and we can be aligned. For us, what it's done is it's given us a lot more opportunity with two of us to be more involved with community, with our employees. There's actually been a lot of involvement in industry, and Bill specifically sat on the Central One board for 9 years. That takes an awful lot of time from leaders of our system to participate, collaborate initiatives, credit card initiatives. So there's lots of committees in our industry, and we try to be represented wherever we can.
Yeah, no, that's good. And, from what I hear, it works very well.
It has. It was a couple of years to get going,
Yeah.
But certainly the last 6, 7, 8 years, we've had a pretty good run. We've had really good success, and we've made some quite significant changes to the operations of our company. And we're in a good spot.
No, that's great. So let's talk about Gulf and Fraser, and I'm using Gulf and Fraser. I think you've been through some iterations of starting as Gulf and Fraser. Then I think you were using kind of an acronym. And from what I understand about sort of the new brand and where you're going, it's back to Gulf and Fraser. So there is that, Kentucky Fried Chicken became KFC.
Yeah.
You guys, you did your version of that, but now you're back. I'm just curious about, why did you go back to the full name again?
Yeah, so maybe it starts about 20 years ago when credit unions weren't really well known for insurance and wealth management, and we were Gulf and Fraser Credit Union, and our legal name is actually Gulf and Fraser Fishermen's Credit Union still.
Oh, is it?
It was founded by commercial fishermen, but we're trying to find a way to grow our credit union. And, as our industry does, we researched the word credit union, and it didn't work that well. People really thought it was narrow where we operated in. And so we looked for all kinds of names, and actually it was a consultant that's we're looking at kind of the nouveau fancy names that really didn't say anything. And what he said was, why would you go away from a name that's very well known? Gulf and Fraser, even though it was small, was well known. And so we changed to G&F Financial Group. Now, we were one of the first to use Financial Group, but of course, the last 20 years, everyone's a financial group now. So that's difficult in the marketplace for people to understand. Are you an investment company? Are you a brokerage? Are you a payday lender? It's been really tough to use Financial Group. And when we merged with Aldergrove Credit Union, that mainly operate in the Fraser Valley, we agreed to relook at our name because we were struggling with it ourselves. And we kind of concluded the same thing. The word Gulf and Fraser is well known, but expanding our operation into the valley with the Fraser River, that is important to the valley. And in fact, the Fraser River is considered one of the main arteries of British Columbia. And we do and have been serving people all around the province for decades, particularly since we have BC Hydro employees in our DNA, CN Rail employees. So we have served people around the province for years, and it kind of made sense to maybe stay with the Fraser River because that's where we've expanded through the Fraser Valley. So it had a tie-in with the Aldergrove community and all the way out to Chilliwack and beyond.
Yeah, so it's nouveau, but it's also retro. So it's kind of cool, actually.
Yeah,
I like it.
When we read the story of the Fraser River, particularly, it really did resonate. The strength of the river, where it flows, the importance to the province, and we are kind of expanding our footprint throughout the province. It kind of made sense.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about mergers because you've been very successful in this area, but I probably should just set up could you just describe as it is today, the size of Gulf and Fraser, just asset size, members and employees?
Sure. We're now about $5 billion, just over $5 billion in assets under management. We have about 65,000 members, and we have about 340 employees. We have some vacancies if anyone's looking for a job, like everyone. We've grown. When I started 30 years ago, we were 2 branches and 40 employees, and I think 130 million in assets. So it's been quite a bit of growth.
Yeah. So, you've had a number of successful small mergers, a lot recently. Mm-hmm. And, could you talk about how you do this with both care, but also sort of effectively and efficiency? Like what's your secret? How are you making these work?
So you kind of have to start that we did merge with United Savings in 2004. And part of that was our members, we were mainly in Richmond and Vancouver, and our members were starting to move east into Surrey particularly, and we didn't have branches. And so we partnered with United Savings, and they had been through quite a few mergers. And we had only been through one in my career, really, and that was with the BC Hydro Employees Credit Union, ELCO. But in that DNA of all those credit unions, it was almost 40 credit unions. Wow. So it has been accelerating. There was a period of time in BC where it got pretty quiet for a number of years, 5 to 8 years. But in the DNA, there are 40 credit unions in our credit union. And, it's over decades, and boards and management have looked at how they serve their members. Is there something maybe they think they need to do? And that has led to, eventual decisions to merge. For us, the last real big one was Aldergrove Credit Union. Our members are migrating because of the cost of housing out into the Fraser Valley. And we kind of ended purposely at Langley. And Aldergrove actually had just planned an opening in Langley. So we were going to have the first branch overlap. And as we were looking to our members saying, when are you going to Abbotsford? When are you going to Aldergrove? When are you going to Chilliwack? When are you going to Maple Ridge? It's like, well, we could go and spend all that money in bricks and mortars and put another brand out in the Fraser Valley. But the credit unions are very strong in the Fraser Valley. And it didn't make sense for us to go out and create another credit union to compete there. So with Aldergrove, there were some really hard questions asked early. Their board hadn't really considered it. But as we sat down together and looked at our branch distribution, looked at the way our members were doing things, and frankly, look at the common challenges we had, which was we need to invest in technology. People want to do things with apps. You can't do that yourself. It gets very expensive. And so we could bring these 2 credit unions together, have a bigger footprint, one that, covers most of the Lower Mainland, and start to make some of the other investments. We then were asked by Vancouver Police and Mount Lehman Credit Union if we would consider merging with them. They had done an RFP, and both were very attractive memberships. We had worked with police before in New Westminster, Vancouver Police, the police credit union. They're attractive membership. Good salaries, pensions.
Right.
Like everyone needs financial advice. And then Mount Lehman was a pretty boutique credit union out in the Fraser Valley again, and they had a lot of common members with all the Grove credit unions, so it kind of made sense. And with our products and services specifically for Mount Lehman, we saw an opportunity to get greater wallet share and maybe be able to bring some more competitive pricing to their membership. That continued on to us being asked by Grand Forks Credit Union. Their board is going through the same conversation. How do they progress and serve their members in the future? And more recently, we've started a dialogue with Interior Savings, which is, a substantial credit union, one of the biggest in the province. And so when you build all of that out, we would be a pretty substantial credit union, but most importantly, have substantial resources to meet the needs of the members. And that kind of is what drives it. Like, we don't really see mergers as a strategy, but it's a tactic for us to build some scale that we can make the investments we need to serve the members. And members used to move to retire to the Okanagan, but now they're moving there for life choice, for career, and our workforce is starting to spread throughout throughout British Columbia.
Yeah, we've got the power of Zoom.
Yep.
When I was reading about Interior Savings, I noticed there was some language around 8 credit unions coming together in a unique local model. And I was like, what's the unique local model? So that's my question. Yeah.
And as we started the conversation with Interior specifically, there are other credit unions in BC that are in different regions. And we started to ask the question, and we're still working on it, frankly, like, what does local mean? Is it local credit decisions? Is it local hiring? In fact, we've engaged a third party, and I just got the draft yesterday, of maybe a different structure to our governance that actually can put local out further in the way that we operate. But the steering committee of the 2 credit unions looking at it haven't seen it, so I can't say too much yet.
Oh, no, that's okay. I won't. I'm not allowed to do spoiler alerts. I know that. It's interesting. Credit unions, whether large or small, there's a body of work that has to go on with any merger. Starts with talks, there's votes, and then it's the actual bringing together. Do you tend to have your entire team, or do you kind of, some people work on it and some don't? Or do you have like a unit that's more devoted to the merger side of things?
So that's a really good question. As we started with Alder Grove particularly, we didn't have a dedicated team. In fact, working with our regulator, there wasn't a clear process on how you did that. And so most people put it off the side or worked on it off the side of their desk. We had third parties that came in, particularly as we're looking at the potential of the partners and doing that work ahead of time. Now we do have some people that have become more dedicated to it. One of the, particularly project management now, we have specific people that are working on the mergers and working with the boards of the credit union and the regulators and building out communication plans for the members. Following behind that, when you get into integrations specifically, there's an awful lot of work. And of course, when you combine systems, there's a tremendous amount of work there.
Yes.
And so one of the things that we really tried to do is we need to keep doing our business. We need to keep driving the growth, and we've been expanding our branch network. So, we have those folks that are really there to serve the members and keep that going. And then we're starting to build this team that's specifically working on mergers so that we don't turn our head. And, in any industry, we know that mergers can become all consuming and really slow down an organization. And that's something we're really trying to avoid by the design of the work and who does what.
Yeah. So I'm, as a CEO, I'm curious your take on open banking and, how that would affect your organization or the credit union system. Do you have some thoughts on that one?
Yeah, when you even look back a few years to Mint, when Mint first came out, some of our competitors, banks more, but they were kind of opening the door a little bit to let people scrape the data, which isn't secure. And, we are concerned about our members' data and the risks of that. Now that maybe there's a better framework around that and protection for people, it's hard to help someone achieve their financial goals if you don't know everything about them.
Yeah, that's true.
And we think open banking, can give us the ability, if we're good at what we do, to get out in front and offer the advice and products that members need. So we see it as an opportunity. We definitely know there's some risk to it.
Yeah.
But if you're really a late follower, we think if someone's made the decision to maybe go to a portal somewhere to start to aggregate and get a better picture of their own finances, and they're liking what they're seeing, the chances of them coming back to us are diminished all the time. So we are really focusing right now on our data, how our data is managed, all of the systems we use to serve our members to make sure that there's an aspect of openness so that we can have the information sharing when we get to that point. But we've been hearing about open banking for a long time, and we're still not sure when we're really going to see that in Canada.
Yeah.
But we want to prepare for it because it's got other benefits too, to being prepared.
Yeah, and if it's coming, and whenever it comes, it does. I think it's better to probably look at it as an opportunity, and I think you're right. The more information you have about people, the more you can help them. So yeah. When you from a credit union perspective, you've worked at a credit union for a long time, and thank you for that. Why? What is it about working in the system that keeps you here? What's important to you, and what do you love about the system?
So I started my career in the trust industry for 4 years, and of course, regulation changed that. And there were some really good trust companies in Canada, some really good products. The largest mutual fund in Canada was with the trust company, but they kind of went the wayside when regulations changed. And I describe it with our employees that when I was in the trust business, if I walked downtown Vancouver and one of the other trust company people was walking by me, you'd kind of avoid them across the street. But near the end of my time at the trust company, originally we could make a lot of decisions locally. We had a fair bit of autonomy in Vancouver. I was with Rural Trust. It felt the power kind of slipped back to Toronto really quickly, so that you needed to get approval for almost anything within 1 year. It really changed. And I didn't know a lot about credit unions. I was born in Ontario where they weren't that strong. So I wasn't really that familiar, but I was invited to join as a management trainee. And I learned pretty quickly that you could ask why a lot. And if you had a solution that made sense, then you'd probably get the backing. Particularly at that time, it was a very small credit union of 40 employees. And the CEO said, well, yeah, why not? Let's try it. So that kind of started it. And as I got to meet, it's a really interesting industry that you have codependencies, like we do need to support each other while we may compete on the corner. It takes a while for people to realize that. And what I have enjoyed back to walking down the street is in this industry, I found when I walk down the street, if a peer from another credit union, you come across them, it's like, we were going to get together, weren't we? We were going to talk about this or have lunch or something. It's just very different from my experience in the early years of my career. And, I've made awful lot of friends in the industry, but we've also done a lot of business together, collaborating, syndicating loans, to strengthen our own credit unions, because when it really comes down to it, we're pretty small.
Yeah. There's that term co-opetition. I remember from the credit union system. Yeah. How do you think that the skills and experience of a CEO will need to sort of change and evolve over time, or even just looking back at your career, what maybe did you start with and where are you at today, and some skills that you think are key? So it's kind of like what are the skills today? What do you think is needed in the future, I guess is the question.
We just presented our next 3-year strategic plan to our board of directors. And when you see the amount of change every year in a strategic plan now, it shows you how much change is happening. And you also need to make decisions, I would say, with less information than you had in the past. and yet the complexity of it is so much greater. Like what you need to know is so much greater. So definitely having a great team that can fill in those gaps, because you can't know everything. It's also a reason I recommend co-CEOs, because it helps a lot.
Yeah. No, maybe there'll be more co-CEOs in the future. and as you think about just credit unions overall, what are the trends and issues that you need to be on top of? And maybe it's change and the rapidness of change, but what are those things that you think credit unions are going to face this in the future?
Well, certainly as a system, and we are a system, we're pretty inefficient. We have too many solutions that we're using that really don't make a difference at the interaction of the member. A lot of the vendors that we have in our industry, there needs to be some change there to support the credit unions, because we're just too expensive the way that we do things. And it's interesting, some of the decisions we make in our industry, it's Hadfields and McCoys. We don't know why some of those decisions are made, but there's maybe some bad blood from decades past. But we need to, maybe with new leadership coming in, there's an opportunity to revisit some of the structure of our industry and find ways to become more efficient.
Yeah,
because we definitely need to do it, and we need to make significant investments if we're going to compete in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is this, I have a 21-year-old, and, he's very purposeful about who he wants to do business with. So, he's a big fan of credit unions, but he's also can be impatient with technology. And I feel for credit unions in terms of, they're for the right reasons and doing honorable work, which I think is appreciated. But there also is, I want that app, I want that e-transfer. I need these things right now. Yeah. So it must be the use of your capital, I'm sure, is always stretched in various directions, I would imagine.
Well, we certainly hear from new employees, they like what credit unions stand for. You do hear general consumers, as you do research, that they love what credit unions stand for. But how do we collectively get the credit union message out into the industry so that, we are capturing more market share from other competitors than just credit unions, and our penetration in the market as credit unions have been pretty flat for my 30 years. Like we really haven't moved much in 30 years.
Yeah. You have a new, I think it's your tagline, it's part of your new brand, Power Your Possible, and putting my marketing hat on. I liked it. So how did you arrive at that one?
Well, it was really talking in financial services. You're always talking about helping people buy their house, or, and sometimes it's actually identifying opportunities for people that they don't think they could own a house. But there's also our community, and there's also our staff. And so we're really trying to find something that was kind of an ideal or a vision for people, didn't matter who you were. So for employees, it could be their career. That's what they're after. And by joining our credit union, hopefully we can create the opportunities to gain experience, education, and maybe they want to be a financial planner one day, and that's where they want to go, or maybe be a co-CEO one day. I don't know. So it really is a message, not just for the market, but also for the employees, and for a lot of the community groups that we work with too. They'll approach us if they have an event, or, they're fundraising for a piece of equipment that a hospital can do something different if they had this level of support. And that's where we like to step in and help the community. So
yeah, it's great. I as a marketer, I love it when things have legs, and so I like it's got good legs inside and outside. So congratulations on that. I like it. It's
good. The team did a very good job of that, and the feedback so far has been really good.
Awesome. So we've ended the formal part of the interview, but I do have a couple of fun questions for you. Are you game for those?
Sure.
All right. So I have my very, I don't think you use these in your branches, but this is my own vault of questions.
There we go.
I'm just going to enter the secret code here. There it is. All right. So 2 questions. First one is, if someone wrote a biography about you, what do you think the title would be?
Passion for people.
Yeah, I like it.
I just yeah, I love meeting new people and employees and having those conversations. And yeah, probably
Cool.
that would be it.
Cool. Would it be well, it wouldn't be fiction. It would be nonfiction, I imagine.
Yeah, but it'd probably be a pretty short book because I don't spend a lot of time reading. My attention span's a little shorter. That's why I like meeting people.
Well, maybe it could be a graphic novel. Who knows?
There you go.
Would you rather have tea with Luke Skywalker or Darth Vader, and why?
Well, doesn't everyone want one of those sabers? Like, I'd love to have one of those. So yeah. Where's Luke?
Oh, Luke. All right. Luke. Yeah, it'd be hard. I sometimes find Darth Vader might be a bit dark, might be a bit of a dark conversation.
Yeah.
Anyways, this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much for your time. I know you're very busy and I really appreciate it. And really enjoyed talking to you. Love what you folks are doing. So congratulations and thanks again.
Thank you. It's very exciting.